One of the other sessions that's kind of a fun session that you don't do that often, but you maybe do it every like 3 to 5 years, is that you brainstorm new sources of income. One of the things that is probably constant is change, so it's always one of those challenges trying to figure out what's the newest thing that maybe the newest product or idea that's maybe coming up, and adapting your business to see if some of those things work for you. And you make this a fun activity. You invite friends over, you invite maybe neighbors, or just make it a fun activity where you're using human creativity to generate a whole bunch of ideas about how the new potential enterprises for your business. I mean, some people may not know a whole lot about your business, but so you're going to get a lot of ideas that probably will not fit your situation. But it's generating a whole bunch of ideas that you can use and use the filters to evaluate and determine whether or not they might fit your whole and fit with your holistic content. And then one of the first things you would do is just anything that's of course illegal you would get rid of. Of course you don't want to do anything with those, and then also you would look at your for example the society and culture, and how do you feel about some of those decisions, those activities do they fit within your hosted content? But one of the things you want to keep in mind is that you don't want to throw out, some of them things may seem totally ridiculous and may not seem to even come close to fitting into what you want to do, but some of those ridiculous ideas have turned out to be a very, very good enterprise. I mean, one of the examples is, we see it a lot nowadays, is a copy machine. That when that was first introduced, the guy introduced it and he thought he was crazy, that who would want to make a whole bunch of copies but there's about every office you go to, there's a copy machine in there. For now, it's probably more of a tendency to be a printer, but it's just that idea was seen to be ridiculous, but it was not. And so you want to be careful of throwing out the ideas that maybe you think are ridiculous, but may have some merit in your business. So as you move ahead, then you get into the process of doing a very detailed gross profit analysis. Some of those initial, in the internet brainstorming session, you'll narrow them down. As you say, you evaluate some of the society and culture, and then you may do a very minimal gross profit analysis, very basic gross profit analysis, and to filter out some more. And then the next part of it would be doing a very detailed gross profit analysis and comparing that with your current enterprises that are using, and determine which one of these enterprises do you think you're going to move ahead with. Are you going to stay with all the current ones, or are you going to add a new one? And those would be evaluated by using those the 7 filters. One of the ones you would use as far as looking at the profitability of that is that gross profit analysis. And the next aspect is to get into the weekly financial, and you would want to determine that for each enterprise. And with this, so next we're going to go into April. She's going to go into some of how holistic management is fit into. Well, I guess one of the things, I'll cover one more thing just briefly before I do that, and that is kind of review what the weekly financial looks like. And this is like looking at any type of chain. In this chain, there's 3 links. There's the resource conversion, the product conversion, and the marketing or money conversion aspect. And if you raise livestock or grow vegetables or anything in that aspect, the resource conversion is that ability to convert that sunlight into a product. And so if you were, like, for example, I raise goats. And if I had a lot of bare ground in my pastures and aspects like that, I'm not able to capture enough of that sunlight and convert it into a resource that would convert it into a product. The goats would be the product. So if you're trying to figure out, was it resource limited, or your product limited, or your marketing limiting this particular enterprise. And the product side of it is you're looking at it's not going to be able to convert that resource into a product that you can market. So if I don't have enough, I've got more pasture than I have goats, so maybe I have to, my weak link was I need to buy more animals because I don't, right now I don't have enough product to, I don't have enough animals to convert that grass into a product that I can sell. And on that, if it's the marketing aspects, well, I've got enough animals, but now I'm trying to, I've got enough product. Now I'm going to have to, my market is the weak link. I'm not able to sell all my goat meat, or I'm not able to, if I'm doing my vegetation management, I'm not able to fill up my whole calendar for using vegetation products. So I need to focus on resources on marketing to enhance that, to fill those gaps. So that's where I should focus my money and resources and time to enhance that weak link in that particular chain of production. There's, I say, there's only one weak link at a time. You may fix one and immediately have another one, but it's just trying to figure out, it helps you kind of think about where you need to focus your resources at this particular time to improve that in your product. And now we'll switch over to April, and how she'll go through a couple of examples of how she, holistic manager, has used holistic management in her operation, and we'll go turn it over to, and I'll come back the later part of this and kind of cover some of the principles of holistic management financial planning. So that, April, I'll turn it over to you.
Great, thank you, Craig. I'm delighted I'm able to be here with all of you. I thought I'd give you just a little bit of background on myself and my farm, and then I'll jump into some examples of this holistic financial planning in action, so you can kind of see how it might relate to what wonderful things all of you are up to doing on your farms and ranches. So like Craig said, my name is April Thatcher. You could go ahead to the next slide, Craig. That would be great. I got a kind of overview of all the pictures from my farm, or some of, but I own and operate April's Dry Farm, and I'm 24, we have 24 acres certified organic produce farm located in Southwest Washington near Portland. In addition to growing over 40 types of fruits and vegetables and herbs, we also have a small drift or herd of animal welfare approved heritage pigs. So we have pork and produce as our major products. About 7 years ago, I started my operation. I was working full-time in Portland as an engineer, and I just started it from scratch. I worked for several years before I began to be full-time at the farm. I had about 4 community-supported CSA members. That is really where I started from. And last year, April's Dry Farm provided produce to over 4 restaurants in our area and 12 grocery stores, as well as about 60 families that participate in our CSA, as well as our heritage pork offerings. So in addition to my own full-time labor and the kind, generous support of my family and friends, in the past couple of years I've also hired between 1 and 3 seasonal employees. In about, well, in 2012 I had married, and my husband Brad and I now run the farm together full-time. And so that was just about the time I adopted the holistic financial management practices, and we're quite pleased with the results of that. And like I said before, we currently rely on no off-farm sources of income or employment. The farm provides our entire livelihood and has since 2008. So you can go to the next slide, Craig. Thank you. So just to give you a sense of where we started on our holistic context, I've put in the kind of the brief overview of it, and I focused on you know, financial stability, family joy or relationships, meaningful work, something we call independent time wealth, and then personal development. These are kind of the foundations which greatly influence our decision making, and you'll see I'll refer back to several points of these when I go through some of the examples. It's just really critical to have that holistic context kind of nailed down in your mind in terms of where you're going, because like Craig said earlier with his triangle, you know, that holistic context really is at the bottom of the foundation of your plan. And he also mentioned something that I think is really important, and that is that it doesn't have to be perfect to start with. Just getting it down on paper is really about 60% of the challenge, because as you start to be confronted with issues or decisions on your farm, having that context to refer back to is really going to help you not only make the decision but also refine your context and encouraging and allowing you to make it a little bit tighter each year or each decision, and it will naturally get better and better. Off on the left, I've got Mabel there. That's our farm cat, and I like that picture because it kind of expresses her thoughts about quality of life. She lives up in our piggery, which is our pig barn, and she's kind of our midwife. When our sows are about to start labor, she will often climb in or be right near their pen, and that alerts us to keep an eye on that particular sow, which is it's a pretty neat thing to watch. And I share that example as one aspect for myself in terms of that those are the kinds of things that make for a good quality of life for me, and therefore they're important that I have time to enjoy and appreciate them. So moving on to the next slide, Craig. Craig asked me to give you an example of kind of a weak link where we use the weak link concept in order to, one of those 7 filters in order to guide our planning. And because labor is such a vital resource and a potential current for most every farm and ranch, I thought I would share how we particularly navigated this critical business decision. As I said before, we historically have had between 1 and 3 employees working at the farm, but in late 2011, my best employee moved out of state, and in early 2012, I married. So we were kind of at this big juncture where we needed to decide whether we should hire new employees or attempt to run the farm with just the 2 of us. And it was a big decision. On one hand, neither of us particularly liked the idea of managing people. That's one of the reasons I started the farm, was because I actually enjoyed being out and being able to do some of do the work myself. But on the other hand, it seemed really daunting now that we had developed this great market, several markets actually, to take on all of that labor ourselves. So the financial weak link filter really helped us solve that dilemma. And then next one, like Craig mentioned before, we sat down and started, my husband Brad and I thought about, well, where really is the weak link? And holistic management, of course, taught us that the weakest points in any system are usually found in one of these 3 categories. You can have weak link, you can have issues in multiple places, but until you fix the weak links, then nothing really will improve. So there's resource conversion, product conversion, or money conversion, or marketing. And before we really knew a lot about holistic management, we always joked really that the weakest link on our farm was our trio of cats that Mabel's excluded from this. They're constantly lounging and napping because we are always busy running around the farm, and they're usually doing exactly what this picture is showing you, which is lazing around. And I wish I could get them to weed the lettuce beds, but it never happens. So we had to decide that they were not the weak link in terms of our holistic context.